In this episode, the boy talked to Dr. Erin about hypnobirthing.
So one of the best things that the birth partner can do, that's a really practical job, is to...
Oh, fine. Guess I'll have to listen.
My friend had a baby, now he don't sleep no more. Waves crash in his eyes, tides on the nursery floor. Oh, my friend had a baby.
Something a little bit embarrassing to admit, but my upcoming son's bedroom is currently storing all of our booze. Because we're going through some kitchen renos at the moment, and so we thought we'd just store it all in one place, and what better place to store it than your infant son's bedroom.
Might not be a bad idea to keep it there, Scott.
Yeah, he doesn't need it for a while. You'll be fine. You can just do it.
Yeah. Look, the other lovely voice on the line at the moment is the amazing Dr. Erin, who is joining us to share some wisdoms of her background as a psychologist and hypnobirthing coach. We're hugely privileged to have her here with us. And Erin, just so you know, it's a bit of a running gag that I'm using this podcast as a form of free therapy by unloading and trauma dumping all over every guest that we have. So it's nice to actually have someone with us who might be able to say something outside of shut up and get over it.
Thanks for the heads up. I'll do my best.
Erin, your area of, I suppose one of your areas of expertise, because you've got all this amazing capability, is in the world of hypnobirthing. I've done a huge amount of research into it as well, and my wife and I are enrolled to partake in your upcoming class. But what can you tell us about the field of hypnobirthing and positive birthing? Fill us in.
I have been teaching the Hypnobirthing Australia's positive birth class for, I think it's about 7 years now, which is pretty cool. And I'm still just as enthusiastic about it as I was when I first started teaching it. But it is essentially just an independent childbirth education program that's specifically designed for Australian mums and birth partners to try to support them in having the most positive birthing experience that you can possibly have. And that all comes down to, I guess, the individual's definition of positive birth. So we're not necessarily prescribing any particular kind of birth, just one that you experience as really positive.
Where does that line up with hypnobirthing? Because Scott's mentioned that. I've done zero research, so I know nothing about it. Some people wouldn't ever describe their pregnancies or their births as positive. How do you get to a point either via hypnobirthing or your methods that you can get to a positive experience?
It's a good question. So I guess as far as the term hypnobirthing, there's a bunch of independent childbirth education franchises, in inverted commas, if you want to call them that. To a point, there's a huge amount of overlap between them, I guess, because birth is birth. But the Hypnobirthing Australia's program, the title, I guess, really just reflects the fact that our course has got a little bit more emphasis on self-hypnosis as a tool. And so that, I guess, is one of many things that we would teach over the course of the class to help people achieve that positive birth outcome. So I guess probably the main underlying, or one of the main underlying philosophies of the hypnobirthing approach is basically, if we can equip birthing couples with the tools that they need to help them stay calm, if we can make sure that they've had adequate preparation, if we know that they have sufficient knowledge about the physiology of birth, the potential interventions that might be suggested, and if we can make sure that they're really well supported both in terms of their birth partner's support, but also the team around them, then if we can bring those 4 things together, that's the best recipe, I guess, for a positive birth outcome.
The outcomes of this form of support, intervention, coaching, however you want to describe it, is absolutely incredible. I didn't realize just how phenomenal it really was. You know, we're talking at Alex, since you've come in, you know, completely unprepared, which is nice and professional. But even things like non-elective cesarean reduction by more than half, 52% reduction in that, 15% reduction in mothers needing to be induced, 40% morphine use reduction, 32% epidural reduction. That is quite frankly bananas. That those kinds of statistics are easily sort of monitored and tracked just by people who have participated in this. So, you know, needless to say, my wife and I are hugely enthusiastic and excited about participating in this, because you can have the best and the most amazing OBs and midwives and so forth, but you know, this kind of support and this kind of intervention just it ticks so many boxes for us. And I'd imagine that a lot of people that participate in this course, in this training and support and coaching, they must be blown away by what you're managing to accomplish.
The stats are pretty phenomenal, aren't they? And I think just overall, that's such an awesome reflection of just changing attitudes to birth overall. I think the more of these independent birthing education options that people have, and the more people are taking them up, I think we're actually starting to see a real shift in perception of birth generally, and that's the kind of thing that then trickles down to the next generation and continues on. So it's pretty cool. People come to the class for all sorts of reasons. And that's the other thing, I guess, that is great about the content that we teach, is that you really can take from it what you want. Some people come to the class just because they want to be armed with as many tools and as much knowledge as they possibly can. Some people are coming because they're really set upon having a birth with as minimal intervention as possible. Some people come to this class as a replacement to the hospital antenatal class itself as well. So yeah, people come along with all sorts of things that they're hoping to get out of it. And the feedback that I get after the class, but then after people's births as well, is so heartwarming. It's one of the best parts of the job. I love getting the birth story emails down the track after I've met a group and then they've gone off and absolutely rocked their birth.
So say Scott and I are both expecting, where we join your class, we're sitting at X months full in our bellies, and what are the kind of things, what can we, is it just one session? What kind of things are we helped to train through? What would you be telling us?
Well, it is a fairly intense amount of content. So at the moment, I teach my classes over the course of a weekend. So it's a full weekend, full day, both days. So it works out to be about 12 hours of content itself, which is a decent amount to absorb. But, most people are kind of coming to the class when they're at the business end of their pregnancies. So that usually really helps them lock in. They're very motivated at that point in time.
Yeah.
They want to learn the stuff.
So could you maybe give an example of, because I'm not really sure how it works. Like, is there an example of maybe an exercise that you would ask us to do?
Erin, just as a heads up, Alex is absolutely just being a cheapskate right now and trying to pilfer as much free information as he can.
I'm not trying to do that.
Don't give too much away, you know.
He's already handed over the cash, so.
I'm asking for 2 minutes of content out of this 12-hour program, Scott.
So, Dr. Erin, if you were to give me the best advice from the 12 hours, that's just classic Alex.
I'll give you a general answer and then I'll sort of give you a more specific as well. So the class itself over that 12 hours there's a lot of theory. So there is a lot of sort of background and understanding of the physiology of birth, the way that the hormones work together to help give everyone a grounding in why the practical strategies that we then go on to discuss actually work. Because I can teach you practical strategies till the cows come home, but if you don't understand why they work or how they work, people aren't very motivated to use them. So there is a fair bit of theory in the mix. We do then do a lot of practical strategies, some of which are things that the birth mum would be doing by herself, some of which are things that the birth partner can participate in as well. And the other part of the class that I think people love the most and probably is one of the most important aspects is we have heaps of birth videos in the mix as well, because usually when you're coming along to a class like this, you probably haven't witnessed any births. You've seen them on TV or in the movies, and those ones all look pretty much the same and aren't necessarily very realistic or helpful depictions of birth. So that's another big component of the class. But to give you a specific answer, one of the techniques and probably the thing that I hear about the most from the couples that have done the class, sounds very cliche, but is breathing exercises. So we teach 3 different kinds of breathing exercises for birthing mums to use when they are in between their contractions or surges, we call them, when they are in the midst of their surges, and when they're actually trying to breathe and bear down and get baby out into the world. So that is probably the practical technique that I hear the most about when couples are writing back to me afterwards in terms of what was really, really helpful. As far as technique that we teach that birth partners have a really big role in, we teach a technique called light touch massage. So one of the things that we know is if we can encourage birthing mum's body to release as many endorphins as possible while she's birthing, that's incredibly helpful. And we can teach you as a birth partner a form of massage, which is obviously a little hard to explain in this 4 minutes, but I'll teach you when you come to the class. So yeah, this light touch massage to help increase that release of endorphins. Does that give you enough of an idea of?
No, I'm sorted. Thanks, guys. It's been great. Thank you. I've got all the information. The one thing I'm curious about is how does this align with? I guess it comes down to the desire of the birthing couple. Is how does this align with, the traditional method, I guess, in the last 100 years with modern medicine? And like for my wife and I, we have our obstetrician and we're like, you tell us what you want us to do. We're in your hands. We're at the hospital. Both of ours, we had the old spinal tap, which my wife was like, thank goodness I had that, because that really worked for her. Where are people in their birthing journey where they decide, and I don't know if they work hand in hand with the normal medical journey versus hypnobirthing journeys, but how do they align with one another? And is it 100% one, or is it 50% and 50%? How does that work?
Yeah, I think it is probably not helpful to think about something like hypnobirthing as offering a complete alternative.
Right.
So it's not a choice of like one or the other. I think that's probably potentially what a lot of people assume and maybe discourages a lot of people from accessing this as a resource, unfortunately, but absolutely not. They are designed to work together. We are wildly aware of the realities of what birthing looks like in this day and age. And although some people that come to our class might be planning on a home birth, the vast majority are still planning on a hospital birth, still working with an obstetrician or going through a public hospital where they've got midwives supporting them. So we're not ignoring the reality of that, I suppose. We are just trying to help people who come along to this class feel more empowered in the decisions that they are making, so that they actually feel like they're collaborating with and working alongside the obstetrician rather than just turning up and being told what to do. It's funny because it's, I suppose, every other context that we think about being in a hospital, we're sick and we are a patient and we have to listen to what we are being told and what's being suggested to us. But that is not the case when you're pregnant, and that is what we forget. So when you are a pregnant couple, you are a healthy couple doing a healthy thing that a healthy body is perfectly designed to do. You're not a sick person that needs to just do as you're told. So I think it's just about shifting that sense of where you stand in that role, I guess, and actually getting people to have a bit more agency, have a bit more control, and feel like they are empowered in the decisions that they're making and that they're really informed and can therefore participate really meaningfully in those decisions as they're being made.
It's absolutely fascinating. Yeah.
It was really cool when my wife and I spoke to our OB, Erin, and mentioned that we were participating in your class. And the look on his face, he was really excited. He was really happy to hear that, that we were partnering up with you, but that, we were taking the whole journey very seriously and we're exploring different ways to assist the birthing process and remaining calm throughout the process. So I think in terms of, to pile on your answer with Alex, the fact that the hospital staff or our birthing team, as they were, and we're very excited to have you as a part of our birthing team as well, we're just genuinely thrilled to hear that, we were getting involved with you.
Yeah, there's definitely no sense of competition. I don't know if that's the right word, but the feedback overwhelmingly from the medical side of things, the obstetricians, the midwives, is they love it when they see a couple coming that they know have done a class like this. It makes their job 1,000 times easier. They can have so much more just detailed conversations. They know that they've got really informed and empowered people that they're working with. And they also know that they've got people who've been really intentional, I guess, about thinking of how they would like this to unfold. I think, unfortunately, there's probably a little bit of a bit of an idea that it's kind of cool to just throw your hands up in the air and be like, oh, well, we'll just see what happens. We'll just, however it goes, we don't have a birth plan. That, I think, actually, for medical people, is more of a concerning red flag rather than, oh, great, that's just what we want to hear. Their feedback is always excellent. And one of the things in particular, and you can both note this, I guess, one of the things that they comment on the most is the role of the partners. They will say that that is one of the ways that they can always tell the difference, is that the partners are so much more useful and so much more appropriate because they know exactly what to do. So there you go.
Here I always think I was going to get a free ride. If I have to do something.
You've already had two.
Yeah,
surely
right.
You've learned by now that there's no free ride involved.
No, I was there. I was there with both of them. Caught them both. I believe I was useful. I was informed that I was useful, so that was a good start.
With us and on our end of things, doing the research we've been doing, there's and piling on what you've just said there, Erin, about not having a birth plan. There's this really alarming trend. I mean, it's alarming to me as a upcoming first time parent. This whole free birthing movement, which is just sort of like whatever happens, and wherever you are, it just let the body do its thing. I read these stories and I go, that's an absolute horror show. Like, why would you do that? Is it just so full of risk and lack of preparedness? And I don't know if it's just the the tremoring, anxiety-riddled father-to-be inside of me that's saying that. But I think the more prepared you can be, the better off you are. I know that's hilarious because only 15 minutes ago I was saying that my son's room is currently a stockpile of booze. But It's really cool, and again reassuring to me as a father who's about to participate in this, that this is the right thing to do. Being a part of these groups, being part of these classes, and talking to experts like yourself who can give us the real data and the real support that we need.
It's unfortunate because I think there's already so much probably confusion around birthing models and terms. And so people think, when they hear home birth, then there's this free birth and then hospital birth and, terms like doula, things like that I think we're really just getting a little bit more used to in our vocabulary. I think it does complicate things further for people when we hear about sometimes these very unfortunate outcomes that typically do relate to free births. And I think unless you've really looked into it, which you guys obviously have, you don't necessarily realize that free birth is different to home birth, and that one is a very monitored and intentional sort of choice, whereas the other is much looser and yes, probably then associated with much poorer outcomes.
Well, I'm more than happy for our birthing experience to happen in a hospital. I don't even like cleaning up after I make breakfast, let alone after my wife gives birth. So not to mention the higher probability of success of the birth, but of course my mind goes to, oh God, that's going to be a nightmare to clean up.
Yeah. Having seen it happen, I mean, Erin, I'm sure you've probably seen a few more than I have, but in the two that I've seen, it's pretty graphic.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that there was, we started with a couple of people in the room, and all of a sudden there's 10 people in the room come business time, what's happening? Why are you all here? Why is there a cleaning crew? Why are you wearing boots? Are you, as part of your plan, it sounds like you've got the training ahead of the birth itself. Are you ever invited into the birthing room itself?
Sadly, no. I would love to attend births. But technically, in my role as a childbirth educator, I'm not a midwife, I'm not a doula, so I'm not technically trained to be a particularly more useful than your average, very educated birth support person.
Uh-huh.
So, no. Typically, my role is just to make sure that everyone is as geared up as they need to be with everything that they want and need. And therefore they certainly don't need me to be there for it to work. And because people feel pretty self-sufficient, sadly, I rarely get invited along.
I'm sure, Scott, maybe you could do a FaceTime live.
Now that could be a podcast episode.
Well, look, I think the more the merrier in our birth. I think power in numbers.
Yeah, I'm waiting for the permission slips from our hospital to get a live recording of this one. The more and more we talk, the more and more I realise that my preconception of the Looney Tunes pendulum in front of the face hypnosis thing is not what's going on here. That's been enlightening. What would be, you talk about birth partners, so let's talk about, what this podcast is about dads and the dad's role and those sort of things. What is without giving, you maybe give me 0.7 in your top 10 ideas as to Scott's point of not giving away everything in the plan, because apparently I'm a cheapskate. What is an example of something that a useful dad or a useful birthing partner can do, even on the day or the lead up to?
Good question, and look, I'm happy to disclose a couple of overarching principles / secrets. So I'll give you two main answers, I suppose. The first one, and we talk at length about this in the class, is to cut a long lecture on neuropsychology short. We know that birthing mums have got a part of their brain, it's in the most sort of primitive part of our brain, that is purely designed to help us birth. But in order for us to be able to really sink into that part of our brain and let it take over and do what it does best, we need to switch off the very thinking, very controlling part of our brain. So that's our neocortex. That's the part of our brain that does all the complicated stuff that we do in the course of a day. But if that is too switched on, then that that primitive part of our brain that controls the birthing reflexes doesn't work as well. So in order for us to be able to relax and let that part of our brain take over, we really have to feel like somebody else has taken charge of that part of the day, I guess. So that's kind of an overarching principle, I suppose, that birth partners can take away, is that you have to be the neocortex for both of you. You have to be the one that takes on the responsibility of the practical stuff. You have to be able to communicate confidently with the caregivers. As much as you can take off her plate from that perspective, the better. That doesn't mean that you ignore her and, you know, don't converse with her at all. But the more of that you can take on, the better. So you need to be informed about the conversations that you guys have had about various interventions and what you want and what you don't want, so that you can handle some of those conversations a little bit more independently with minimal input from her.
Oh, God. That sounds really scary.
You got time, Scott. It's okay. You got time.
Erin, that sounds hard. I guess. All right, fine.
That's Alex, by the way. I'm on board. He's, I'm
Thanks for
for it.
clarifying.
The other piece of advice that I think is really important and really useful on a practical level that maybe doesn't sound so hard.
Oh, I'm listening.
I said before that we're really mindful of the realities of birthing in a hospital environment. That said, we're also pretty realistic about the fact that, despite the fact that we use them, hospitals are not perfectly designed for birth at all, just in terms of environmental factors. So one of the best things that the birth partner can do, that's a really practical job, is to do everything possible to modify the birthing environment to make it as conducive to birthing as possible. So that would involve things like, you know, making sure that it's nice and dark, that the lights are off or dim, that you've created a really nice ambiance. Maybe you've got little LED candles, or maybe you've got fairy lights, you've got the blinds closed, you've got the bed pushed out of the way so that you've got lots of space to move around in. You've got a sign on the door so that it feels like you've created this really nice private space where birthing mum can feel really unobserved. You've got all the stuff that you need. Maybe you've got a birth ball. Maybe you've got a mat so that it's easy to be on the floor. Those kinds of things. Music playing, the Bluetooth speakers, all that sort of stuff. That makes a huge difference to mum's birthing capacity, and is a pretty simple thing that birth partners can do. Does that sound more appealing, Alex? Yeah.
Yeah, I can do that, I guess. Yeah, I can give that a crack.
It sounds like it borrows a lot from the field of Hygge, Dr. Erin, the Danish philosophy. Which have you come across that before? Has anyone mentioned that in the classes?
No one has actually made that connection. I guess the way that we tend to talk about it, which is probably good for a laugh, is if you think about the environment that you need to get the baby in there, you need the same kind of environment to get the baby out of there.
Ah.
Yeah, I would align it more with romance, I suppose.
Okay, Barry White in the delivery room.
I won't say what I was going to say.
Your obstetrician, Scott, why are there all these sex toys hanging on the wall? Like, what's going on? Looking like an armory?
Why do I need to wear this leather mask? Shut up, doctor.
I feel like I'm getting some very interesting insights into how these babies got in there in the first place.
Oh, no, this is going to make for some awkward conversation when we do the class in a few weeks.
My key takeaway is there that you specifically mentioned LED candles, which tells me that there's been a fire incident in the past, potentially with too many other candles.
I think it's just a hospital policy thing. I don't think they let you take actual candles in.
Okay. Well, yeah, we'll see how we go.
I'm really curious, Dr. Erin. You've been Dr. Erin Kelly now for about, not to bring it up, 15, 16 years, but you mentioned you've been running this course for 7. So what actually steered you in this direction in the first place? It's such an interesting and I suppose, unique and specialized field. How did you go from, not to downplay the role of psychologist, but say more standard, counseling and trauma informed care and all that kind of thing? How did you become steered into this field?
It's probably not a particularly original answer, but it was when I got pregnant. So I have a little girl who is just turned 8, and when I got pregnant with her, don't tell anyone, this is a private conversation, right? That despite my extensive training and supposed capacity to be able to overcome these things, I've had a lifelong anxiety around medical environments, which is not uncommon, obviously. That's, for a lot of people, one of their biggest stumbling blocks, I guess, in birthing is the fact that the majority of us do not have very many positive connections with hospitals. They're usually places that we go for pretty yucky things. So I am not a fan of hospitals. I don't like needles. I don't like blood tests, all the things. And so it was pretty clear to me from the outset that if I was going to have any shot at enjoying my pregnancy, that I was going to have to do something to really shift my mindset around the birth and the pregnancy. So I enrolled in a Hypnobirthing Australia class as a client, did it, loved it, and it helped me so much. I had a phenomenal birth experience, not because it looked phenomenal from the outside, I guess, but because I experienced it as phenomenal. It still had plenty of intervention and stuff going wrong and scary bits, but I didn't experience it that way because I had such a good mindset around it. So it was, I think when my daughter was not quite 1, that I signed up to become a practitioner, and have done it ever since.
I wouldn't go as far to say that's not an original story. I mean, lived experience, not just being an educator, but having been through it yourself. I would argue that's a very unique position to have, being able to see it from both sides of the fence, and really just drives home that my wife and I are in very, very safe hands when it comes to working with you in the coming weeks. Now, we do have a couple little segments here, Erin, and there's one that's, I'll warn you, it's world renowned. People tune in, often fast forward through the rest of the podcast just to get to this one. And it's very originally named Word of the Week, and it's Alex's turn for Word of the Week.
It's time for Word of the Week. It's time for Word of the Week. It's time, oh yeah, for Word of the Week.
Now, Scott, my word of the week this week is a word that appeared just after my daughter was born. I had no idea that this word existed, and Dr. Erin might be able to inform us as well if that comes into expectations as part of hypnobirthing. But it's APGAR score. Scott, have you heard that one before?
I have not.
Okay, well, there you go. See, this one caught me off guard. The doctor started talking about things. I'm like, what is this? And it is a quick, rapid numerical assessment of 0 to 10 of a newborn's health, calculated at 1 and 5 minutes after the birth, based on 5 criteria: their appearance, their pulse, grimace, activity, and respiration. So when my daughter was born, all of a sudden they're talking about numbers already. I'm like, guys, I don't think she's into maths that early. But basically, it gives them a score out of 10 and checks on all those little things. So what does their skin color look like? That's a score. The heart rate, where that is, their reflex to something of like being pinched or something like that, what their muscle tone looks like, and their breathing effort as well. And basically, if they get between 7 and 10, that's normal. 4 to 6 is low, and 0 to 3 is critically low. Dr. Erin, is that something that comes into expectations in your hypnobirthing stuff?
We don't talk too much about that specifically. I guess we definitely start to prepare parents for some of those things that would be happening in the immediate aftermath of the birth. But typically, I think that's probably one of the main differences between a hypnobirthing class and a hospital antenatal class, I guess, as an independent birth education vehicle. We are looking more generally, I guess. The hospital antenatal class is going to give you more of a orientation to the facility, I guess, and perhaps speak more to those medical things that will happen in the aftermath of the birth. There's so much. There's so many things that you don't expect. Look, they're little first hearing tests and, all these things that kind of happen in those first few days after birth that, if you don't necessarily know to expect it, you think, oh, this is happening because something is wrong. But usually it's just all part of the routine.
When you were rattling off the 5 criteria there, and you mentioned the word grimace test, I was thinking, what is that? Is that the child's first disappointed look at what the world really is? Sort of comes out and goes, "Oh, yuck!" And they go, "Yep, that's a 5 out of 5. You've got it."
Yeah, I don't think their eyesight's that set at the moment. But if they get a look at Dad and go, "Yeah." Yeah, we're in trouble. I tell you what, I feel like you do an APGAR score on me on a couple of Saturday mornings after a big Friday night sometimes.
All right, well, we better jump into a quick little break here. And Erin, we're going to come back and I'm going to run this segment that is affectionately known as How to Dad. And I'm going to throw a bit of a curly question out there and see what you think.
Oh, my friend had a baby. Life flipped like a coin. Oh, my friend had a baby. Chaos joined the joy.
Wow, what a great episode. I like it a lot. You should give it 5 stars or leave a review. My dad works hard on this podcast. He would appreciate it. Sorry about the rude words. It's funny.
Parenthood's a dubstep drop, not some easy dream. Oh, my friend had a baby. Life lived like a...
Welcome back after the break. We've got Dr. Erin with us, and we're talking about hypnobirthing this week. But Scott, you have an amazing question on How to Dad. I think this is like 6 weeks in a row now that you've had the How to Dad segment. Let's play that theme music.
How to dad, how to do, fix a boo-boo or a shoe, got a tantrum, got no clue. How to dad, it's in your hand, step by step you'll understand. How to dad, you're the man.
My How to Dad question is one that I'm curious about both of your responses. So we have a highly qualified psychological expert in the room and a disastrously unqualified father who's also got to try and answer this one here. But my question is, how early would you recommend that you start talking about mental health with your kids? And I'm gonna get Alex to answer first because I want Dr. Erin just to dunk on him about how wrong he is.
I think at the moment, I think about our 5-year-old daughter, and she's at school and she's experiencing new things and talking to other kids. And I think sort of as a sideways way into it, we talk to her about it in a ways of asking her how that makes her feel, which I think sort of falls into that bucket in a way. It's not being explicitly, how does this affect your mental health or anything like that? It's a ways of, I guess, prompting a question or prompting an answer out of her, which can be like getting blood from a stone sometimes. But it does give us an insight into how she feels about it, about things. Like if someone upset her at school, and the school gives them ways of communicating that. But I think that's sort of, that's working for us as like an early way of discussing understanding their thoughts about a scenario, but to then explicitly go into that, like, yeah, I don't know. We're not there yet, and I'm not sure, but we're kind of doing it in a ways.
All right. Well, Dr. Erin, can you first start by describing how Alex is ruining his children's mental health and providing us with an answer from your perspective?
I'm afraid I'll have to disappoint you a little bit, Scott.
What's it all been
I
for?
know.
What's this been
James.
for?
Alex is not that far off. I should also point out, I mean, yes, I am a psychologist, but I'm certainly on here in my capacity as a hypnobirthing educator. I was just feeling the need to point out that my expertise is very much in the area of getting the babies out, and less in the parenting part. That part's harder, definitely. But I mean, I think the answer is it's never too early. Your kids are getting information about mental health right from the get-go because they're seeing you, and they're seeing you deal with your hard days and your good days, and they're seeing your coping strategies. So even though that might not be an explicit conversation that's occurring, they're still getting that information. So definitely one of the things that I talk to parents about a lot is not needing to hide that stuff from your kids. I think we've probably sometimes get the idea that if you're upset or you're having a rough time or something difficult has happened and you need to cry, they shouldn't do that in front of your kids. But I would really disagree with that. It's really good for them to see that those fluctuations in emotion are normal, and it's really good for them to see you doing the things that you need to do to make yourself feel better when you have a bad day. I think the other piece of parenting advice that has always stuck with me is obviously the depth to which we discuss certain issues with kids needs to be developmentally appropriate, but scary information from a trusted source is better than a trusted source not talking about something scary.
That makes a lot of sense.
A lot of sense, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a really useful principle because, again, I think it's probably a bit of a generational thing, but we have all probably grown up with parents who, maybe something horrible is happening in the world. Plenty of that going on at the moment. Maybe there's a relative in hospital, something like that. And that conversation just sort of shut down. But kids are super perceptive and they know something's up, and the fact that something's up and you're not talking about it feels weird and feels scary. So it is much more comforting for them to hear something from you, even if it is a hard thing to hear, but the fact that you're actually talking to them about it creates a much better overall outcome.
Wow, that's hugely helpful and wildly insightful.
Someone qualified on this podcast giving it.
Yeah, are we actually getting real usable advice on this podcast? It's actually a little bit unsettling.
You can tuck that away because, that's definitely a useful one, I think.
Well, I've got a bit of a follow-on question, Erin, if you don't mind, and if it's too personal, please feel free to tell me to jam it. But you mentioned you've got an 8-year-old daughter, and in your line of work, you're dealing with all kinds of, both positive and challenging situations. Is your daughter at the age yet where she's curious about what mum does for a living? Does she have any probing questions that you've found a little bit challenging to answer? What's that dynamic look like?
Yeah, definitely. She's well and truly across what I do. I think she had a day at school or something last year where they had to, go dressed as what they wanted to be or something. And so she went as a psychologist. And I, what did you do? And she said, I just sat in front of the class with a clipboard and asked them what their problem was.
Oh, good.
So she's got the general gist of what I do. But I think probably the way that I talk to her most about my work is just to normalize her experience. So she, as a very insightful, very emotionally intelligent little 8-year-old, certainly has got her own worries and anxieties and things that bother her. She's a really deeply thinking little girl. So I think what's been most helpful is for me to let her know that that's what I spend all day doing and talking to people about, and that what she's experiencing there is not unusual at all, and that different people just worry about or struggle with different things, but usually everyone is struggling with or dealing with something.
Yeah, that really resonates on my end with a deeply feeling child in my 5-year-old, is that we, a lot of those flare-ups are usually around emotional things that she's trying to understand. So, yeah, we try and have those open conversations to understand what's going on. I just want to maybe bring it back to the birthing process, and I guess afterwards as well. You know, we talk about a lot about the lead up to and the occasion that it happens, but I know that you've got experience in things like postnatal anxiety and depression. Like, what is the support that's available in your space after birth has happened?
To take it back a step, I guess I certainly, when I'm teaching the hypnobirthing class, one of the things that I will sometimes bring up is, in the same way that people sometimes get a little bit too carried away planning the wedding and forget about the marriage, you could certainly say the same thing potentially is true of getting too caught up in planning for the birth and not thinking too much about the aftermath and what the parenting part is actually going to look like. I would say probably that whilst that is true to a point, when you are pregnant, it is very hard to plan too far beyond the birth because it does just feel so big. And although the hypnobirthing class itself and the philosophies involved aren't necessarily specifically about parenting, they certainly do set you up to start parenting on the right foot, I guess. If you go into your birth feeling really empowered and really informed, and then you experience the birth as a really positive experience, you are more likely to tackle that next phase feeling a little bit more confident and sure-footed. As far as my role as a childbirth educator, there's certainly opportunity for debriefing the birth experience because certainly mums' experiences of birth can play a part in the potential development of postnatal depression or anxiety. Not necessarily, it's certainly not the only thing, but it can. And so that is why debriefing that birth experience can be really important, and that's support that I can provide. Sometimes you need to be able to express that you were potentially disappointed with how things unfolded, or you need to be able to explore some of those what ifs. And if not with me, with other care providers, with your obstetrician, with the midwives, there's usually a good opportunity for birth debriefing. Otherwise, any support that I would be providing in that space would not be in my childbirth educator role. It would be more in my clinical psychology with that hat on, I guess.
So much of that seems about just the basics of education and helping people prepare in a ways that they know that there are those options and that there are things that they can expect that might catch people off by guard. Like I know in my experience, just probably, I think it was day 4 when we were still in hospital because of complications, and I had an opportunity to go home just for a quick moment, and I got home and just collapsed on the couch for an hour. I didn't even move. I was just I didn't realize how exhausted I was. You know, you can see it in your partner and how tired they are, and you know, you talk about it and stuff, and then my experience was just absolute collapse without realizing that was there, which I guess is something to be, you know, that people can be aware of as well, is that, you know, that it does affect people in different ways. So yeah, that's really good to know that education is being shared out there, which is fantastic.
I feel really lucky. I suppose one of the benefits that I have, because it's possible to teach hypnobirthing classes with more of a midwifery background, whereas I teach the class with my psychology background. And that is a really useful dual hat aware. I think, for example, one of the things that we do cover fairly briefly in the hypnobirthing class is we talk a little bit about breastfeeding, but in the class context, we're talking about it really just in its basic, most basic sense. But having had the experiences that I have had and seen so many women struggle with breastfeeding and the impact that it has on their mental health, I feel like that, for example, is one place where I can bring out that experience and just kind of give the class a bit of a heads up that is not something that necessarily goes as smoothly as you might be expecting, and that can be a really big factor in some of those initial postnatal struggles.
It's something we talk about quite a lot, how challenging being a mother is, and as fathers we can very, very easily overlook things like what you've just mentioned, Erin, challenges with breastfeeding and what mothers may feel if they experience that. And it's really nice to know that the support is out there, where there's a space where people can feel safe and they can talk about those anxieties and get that reassurance that they're not in this alone. They're not the only people that have been through it, but to normalize that experience without detracting how anxiety provoking it can be. So without sort of painting with too broad of a brush, really grateful for people like yourself being there in the corner of mothers.
Well, it's one of my most favourite things to do.
Well, that's good, because of the line of work you're in.
Thank goodness you have a passion for it. Otherwise, could you imagine? Yeah.
Yeah,
that happens. Whatever.
Another one. Oh.
It's a genuine privilege. I really do feel very, very lucky in what I get to do.
Well, speaking on behalf of Alex and myself, I think we'll say that we both feel very lucky that you've spent this time with us here today and filled us in on some really interesting stuff, some really useful tips along the way. I cannot wait to be a part of your class in the coming. Oh, how far off are we? I think we're about 5 weeks away before you'll be locked in a room.
Yeah, not
with
that
me.
far away now. Yeah.
With the timing of that, is that the recommended timing? Like 5 weeks out from pregnancy, 2 months out? When would you say someone should start thinking about this, or is it any time?
I actually think we should get Alex down here, Scott, for this.
Oh yeah, I think so too.
Yeah, if you can fly me down, no worries, I'll come along. But I've got all the free advice I need right now, thank you.
I have been telling Alex for about, I don't know, how long have I known him? About 13, 14 years, that he really needs to talk to a psychologist. So I think now that he's pinned into this room, we would just trap him in to do the birthing class, and then we can fire him off to someone else to deal with the real problems.
You should be the baby moon, Alex. Come down to Tassie. We usually say any time between 20 and 36 weeks. So usually my advice to people is it's never too late, because people often panic, think that they're getting a bit too close to the end and that it's therefore not worth it. And I always say absolutely not. If anything, the closer it gets, the more motivated you are. So even though you've got less time to sort of get used to the concepts, you're very motivated to get used to the concepts and to practice them. And I guess when you do it a bit later in the piece, you're also pretty close to the start of maternity leave, at least for birth mums, which means they've just got a little bit more time up their sleeve to dedicate to this. But some people like to do it really early, closer to that 20-week mark, so that they've got a really long time to absorb the concepts and try to really bed them down and practice them so that they become second nature. So it really just depends, but that's the general recommendation, anytime between 20 and 34 to 36 weeks.
I'll just quickly, just as we close out, I'll share my quick closing story, because you mentioned breathing techniques before. And when my daughter was being born, there's so much focus on the mum in this point. And and rightfully so, I suppose. But I remember during contractions and when all that was going on, is that I shared some breathing techniques that I'd learned through self-defense with my wife at the time. And I was like, okay, let's do this. And she was finding it really helpful. And the nurses and the midwives are like, "Oh, have you had training, Alex? This is wonderful advice. This is really helping." And so I felt like a really big, brave boy in that moment, and I was getting high fives and gold stars. So I can only recommend to the other dads out there is that if you want to feel important, there's a if you ever feel like
This is the perfect segue for Alex to have an excuse not to participate in something. He's like, no, I already got a gold star
Yeah,
at my last birth.
What are
I'm
you
going to be
talking?
fine.
I know what I'm
I
doing.
was just going to reframe that and say, imagine the gold stars you would have been getting, Alex, if you did all the other stuff that you learned in my class.
That's right. Oh, yes, no, we had the advice about making it feel like, make it feel romantic, make it feel like home, help with the breathing techniques, and all of that stuff.
Be the neocortex.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. The neuro, yes.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
that's
yeah,
right.
yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
Cool.
I think we're all
I've
over
got-
it. Scott, we're fine. We're fine.
We're fine. I've got one final question for you, Erin, and it revolves around. I read online that you're a bit of a fan of 1980s power ballads.
Oh,
Have you got a recommendation for a birthing song that's totally epic and, for my son to come into this world and really rock out hard in his first couple of seconds? What would that song be?
ooh. You've put me on the spot. That feels like a question I could really contemplate for days. It's hard to go past Bon Jovi. I don't know if Living on a Prayer is a good way to start time on this planet, but maybe that's a classic. That could be good.
We could do that mid-birth, while
Yeah,
we're halfway
yeah.
there.
Whoa, my baby's got hair. Something like that.
Oh, are you going to be singing at those? That's my question.
Oh, I'm a bit of a sucker for not being able to not sing along to songs like
Okay.
that. So
Yeah.
it
well-
may very well be me taking over the vocals halfway through.
That sounds like a great way for you to meet your baby.
Dr. Erin, thank you so much for joining us on the My Friend Had a Baby podcast. It's been really valuable having you on, sharing the hypnobirthing journey and what people to expect as well, which I think is really important. And I guess a final thing, how can people find you?
Probably easiest to find me just online. I have a fancy new website, so it's just www.hobarthypnobirthingco.com.au. Also on Instagram and Facebook.
We'll put those links in the show notes. That's where you can find Dr. Erin. Thank you, Erin. It's been fantastic. Yeah, Scott, I look forward to hearing how the courses go.
I assume that when I come out the other side, I am going to be the pinnacle of a well-adjusted and prepared father. I'm very excited for that because I'm certainly not feeling that way now. I am a little bit more after this podcast because all those little tips and tricks, they're really, I don't know, some of them are really just put me on my bum. I'm glad I was sitting down. I went, oh, that's,
I think you'll get more gold stars than Alex. So
No, I'll just get all the notes from Scott and then I'll just take it from there.
It's just like when we were back at uni. Dr. Erin, we better let you get back to saving the world. Thank you for spending the time you have with us. It's been really fun and interesting and engaging. And looking forward to the upcoming class with you in a few weeks' time.
pleasure. Thank you for having me.
And as a final thought for all you tired parents out there, remember, birthing in the hospital, spaghetti in the restaurant.
Oh, my friend had a baby. Chaos join the join.
Podcast.